So she's admitting that they're going to go touch all the machines that have already been validated, and they're going to update the root software passwords. That obviously did not happen. That is not happening. All they did is just went in there and just changed the password. They were able to review months of security footage in hours and then deploy this update. Jena Griswold continues to be under fire for her leaky password problem. She sent a letter over to Trump's attorneys, and Trump's attorneys responded to this. We'll get the latest updates. This letter came courtesy of Heidi Ganahl over on X. She's over there in Colorado, was a GOP nominee for the governor there, and she got access to these letters. We've also got an update from a representative out of Colorado. His name is Representative Scott Bottoms. He's the House District 15 candidate and representative, and he's demanding an audit now since Leaky Griswold has then created a problem by leaking passwords all over the internet and then deploying her own rules. She wrote her own rule for herself that gives her the power to go fix the BIOS passwords, even though there's a certification process and a validation process that you would go through before the machines are put into service. So then she goes, after they're sealed, signed, and delivered and in service, then she goes and cracks the seal, makes some changes, and puts it right back into action without going through the same validation or verification process. She just says, oh, I just have to write a rule for myself, which she did, and then deployed the rule instantly, like within 12 hours, and said that the governor gave her air assets to fly around to update all the machines. Okay, so Trump's people were very unhappy about this, and they sent a letter to her. Then she responded back on Thursday, October 31st, and then Trump's people responded back the following day. So let's get caught up on the back and forth between Crazy Eyes Griswold and the Trump team. And so we've got two people here. Jena Griswold, my understanding is she wants to run for governor. It's going to be hard for her to do this, that after this disaster. But here you can see this letter is from Jena's office, and it says, all right, listen, everybody, Republicans and Trump people, the Colorado Department of State is in receipt of a letter from the Colorado Republicans, as well as a letter from Donald Trump for president dated October 30th. Now, this correspondence here provides a response to both letters and an update on the measures taken by the department. It says at the end of last week, the department became aware of the publication of certain voting system component passwords in a spreadsheet posted on our website. Oops. Upon becoming aware of this issue, the department began an investigation and consulted with federal cybersecurity partners who are corrupt hacks over from CISA to determine whether the publication posed a risk to the security of our election. It was quickly determined that the spreadsheet presented no immediate threat to the security of Colorado's voting systems or the 2024 general election. The department determined that because Colorado's voting systems are protected by layers of security and redundancies, no single error can compromise the integrity of the system. Now, these measures are enshrined in statute, and the department's election rules, including multiple layers of password protection, tightly controlled physical access to voting equipment, 24-hour daily video surveillance. Great. If they have permission to be there, it's like you're not monitoring somebody who's coming in with ski masks on and like a blowtorch welder to hack the safe, among other measures. To reiterate, the security of our voting systems is not endangered, so you guys are great. The department is nonetheless aware of the unprecedented attention and scrutiny on every aspect of this, and we've taken action, and we're continuing to take immediate action to secure this, to reassure our voters. Now, in conjunction with the governor's office, the department is mobilizing background check state cybersecurity experts, along with department staff to travel to every county in Colorado to update voting systems passwords out of an abundance of caution. And you can see it's 31 counties. Based on the department's initial investigation, the password updates currently being performed pertain to 31 counties where the exposed passwords involving equipment are still being used. Wow. So she's admitting that they're going to go touch all the machines that have already been validated, and they're going to update the root software passwords. They're performing additional security checks to confirm that no machines have been altered. How can they do that? If somebody has root access, then can't they alter the machines and delete the logs to show proof of that? Are they going to do a full image analysis? Like, are they going to image everything that's on there and then compare it? Or are they just going to like run a quick virus scan or something? What's the length of the security check? Because they told us the other machines, when they were tampered with, they had to be taken out of service. They made Mesa County buy new machines. Remember that? The county clerk and recorders are all aware of this effort, and they're cooperating with the department to ensure rapid completion of this with minimal interruption to regular election processes. This work will be completed as soon as possible. We appreciate your attention to this matter. Signed by Christopher Beall, Jena Griswold's little b. So Trump's defense, Gessler Blue Law, sent this back over to the Honorable Jena Griswold. Griswold. November 1st, in direct response, they say, okay, hey, dear Secretary Griswold, thank you for your letter responding to our concern that your office is terrible, that you guys released BIOS passwords throughout the state. But your response does not, however, match your office's consistent statements over the past several years. You said BIOS passwords are a critical security component. You said this, and your unwillingness to engage in a new trusted build process erodes voter confidence in our system. We provided you a practical solution to solve these problems, and we renew our request for the reasons below. First, your response directly contradicts the importance that your office has consistently placed on BIOS passwords over the past several years. In fact, on August 1st, 2024 of this year, just a few months ago, Jesse Romero, your voting systems manager, testified before the District Court of Mesa County. Incredible. They went back to the Tina Peters case and they got this dude's transcripts from court. He's testifying in court. He says, oh gosh, Your Honor, yeah, BIOS passwords, he's trying to convict her, are very confidential. And when he was asked whether the BIOS passwords could be used to connect the voting machines to the internet, he responded, well, yeah, the BIOS password could enable that connection. You just go in there and just turn it on. Now, I note that this testimony was used in part to prosecute and convict a former elected official who inadvertently released BIOS passwords to one system. Prosecuted. And they used that testimony to go convict her. Jena Griswold is a felon. August 9th, 2021, Jena, your office also published a statement back during this trial from Colorado's Secretary of State's office regarding an official order to Mesa County, which stated that the public disclosure of the BIOS passwords for one or more components of Mesa County alone, just the disclosure of the passwords, Jena is totally screwed here by her own, hoisted by her own petard, that the disclosure of one system alone constitutes a serious breach of the voting system security protocols as well as a violation of the election rules. Busted, 2 for 2. Then, on August 17th, Jena, you issued an election order. You described images showing the BIOS passwords for Mesa County voting system as sensitive information, right? Someone took a photograph, there's a password in there, oops. As you know, over the last month, many Coloradans have voiced concerns that several voting machine components are equipped with remote access cards that could, if turned on, allow the component to be accessed remotely via the internet. Now, your office has stated that Wi-Fi capability is disabled at the BIOS core level of the voting system equipment. And you know how that is, right? You can go into your own BIOS. If you got a Windows machine or a Linux machine, go in there and just turn stuff on and off. Turn that hard drive on, turn that hard drive off. At the level, then you boot into the operating system, you can't see it. This means whether there is or is not a Wi-Fi chip, the ability for the computer to use it is disabled, right? At the BIOS level. But if you have the password, just turn it back on. Of course, by revealing the BIOS passwords, your office has destroyed this layer of protection. And likewise, in the leader of the Clerks Association echoed the importance of the BIOS passwords for wireless security, stating there are wireless antennas in the devices, but they're turned off. Only the state has the passwords to the BIOS to where you can get in to turn them on precisely. So by Jena's own admission, that's a problem. Second, your refusal, Jena, to acquiesce to our reasonable demands here undermines confidence in our election. And just to point this out as an aside, Jena updated and did everything while she had noticed that Trump's people were objecting to her, saying we have alternative ideas for you. All election officials are aware of the controversies surrounding election administration, as well as the fact that many citizens have lost faith in our systems. President Trump has proposed a reasonable, practical solution to remedy your release of these critical passwords. You possess the ability to help restore confidence in Colorado's voting systems. And so, Jena, it is astounding that you refuse to take practical steps to solve this security breach and to help assure people that their votes will be properly counted. And third, you have announced your intent to conduct an investigation into this matter, which is a poor substitute for a proper audit process. The Colorado General Assembly is charged with auditing the Secretary of State. Executive branch officers should not audit themselves or hire their own auditors because there's an obvious conflict of interest. And she wrote her own rules yesterday that she just followed. We have real concerns that the scope of the audit will be designed to justify your failure to take real action. If you persist in this flawed course of action, please forward us the contact information for the auditors and the description of the scope of the audit. Again, we renew our request that you do the following things. 1, identify those counties for whom the BIOS passwords listed in the disclosed spreadsheet were current as of their most recent trusted build. Right? And that's when everybody goes, looks at the software, creates the final software image, it's validated and certified, they put it on the machine, they're sealing it up, now it's ready. You don't then open it back up and start fiddling with things and then say it's the same build. It's not. It's not a trusted build anymore. Now it's a manipulated build. Immediately notify the affected counties and order a new trusted build is required due to, quote, another security issue which you caused under the election rules. Your office should complete the required trusted builds expeditiously. There's a process. She changed the rules that interferes with the process. Once your trusted build is in place in the affected counties, these counties should then be directed to immediately conduct a new logic and accuracy test for their equipment since you fiddled with it. For these counties for whom a new trusted build is required, and we saw there's like 33 of them, direct them to immediately halt the processing of mail ballots received and to prepare and rescan all the mail ballots already scanned after the new trusted build and logic and accuracy tests are completed. As you know, this is possible because although most counties have already begun to process and scan the returned ballots, no county is permitted to disclose the results until election night. Signed by Scott Gessler with Jena. So that obviously did not happen. That is not happening. All they did is just went in there and just changed the password. Now again, if you have root access to that, who knows what you could do? Turn those on. Maybe someone hops into the machines, updates all the actual operating system software, deletes all the logs. Who knows? No idea. Unless they're going to image those and validate and audit them and then do a rebuild, you can't be sure. You cannot be 100% sure. So it's now questionable. The whole election is now tainted thanks to Jena. We also have this representative who is demanding now an audit. He sent one over to the Colorado State Capitol. He's calling for a special session there in Colorado, saying, as a global superpower, our election system is possibly the highest value target in our nation. It determines who leads us. Breaches of our systems cannot be treated casually or politely. We must address these things swiftly. It comes from this guy named Representative Ken DeGraff and others. Brandy Bradley, Scott Bottoms, 3 different representatives there calling for a special session now to figure this out. We, as duly elected representatives, demand taking immediate action. There's a time of high political unrest right now, and Griswold leaked BIOS passwords on her website. It's a class 5 felony, and we're calling for the immediate revocation of access. The system is compromised, and the system has been compromised for some unknown time, but presumably for a long period. We need to begin the assessment immediately to understand the extent of the breach. Now, the Secretary's public statements are also inaccurate and misleading. According to one cybersecurity expert, being able to access the BIOS allows the system to be booted from a thumb drive to provide unrestricted access, altering passwords, creating backdoors, potentially opening remote access, and accessing and modifying unencrypted data. Another noting that nothing with the USB can be 100% secured. A system penetration with a spreadsheet of BIOS passwords was characterized as an exercise for, quote, the junior team. While only recently discovered, these passwords have been available to level hackers for months and years, maintained there by the Secretary on an unrestricted website. This was a blatant and intentional breach of basic security. There's no way to ensure that our election system hasn't been compromised until proven otherwise by a forensic audit. This could be difficult in light of revelations about her attorney that many files potentially relevant to the audit, possibly including the operating system, are intentionally and routinely deleted in violation of voting system standards. So the cover-up is underway. They're just nuking files. The Secretary's own election rules restrict BIOS password access, and when the Secretary pursued charges against Mesa clerk Tina Peters, a Secretary of State official testified that disclosing these passwords for Mesa County after an election would be a serious security threat. The office secretary that Griswold is responsible, they did and made over 600 of these passwords available to the public during an active election. Tina Peters was after the election was over, and that has the equivalent security of a package placed behind a planter on a front porch by putting the passwords online. Compounding the issue is her intentional neglect. She did not even notify the county clerks of the breach. In a highly charged environment, the threat of those inside the system cannot be overstated. Even a complete review of security footage and lock access would likely fail to reveal such a breach. And to our knowledge, no such investigation has even been conducted. Yeah, they were able to review months of security footage in hours and then deploy this update. While a complete reformatting and reinstall might return the machines to operation, it would also destroy potential evidence that we actually need for our criminal investigation, which is a good point. You got to pull all those out, image everything. But she just interfered with the investigation. She interfered with the evidence, okay? She destroyed the evidence by having her people to go touch all the machines. So now you can't even tell. She is such a criminal, it's insane. The 2002 VSS request requires that even the operating system needs to be maintained, along with log files and all error messages. All potentially relevant files need to be checked. You don't just go look at the access log. Anybody log in here? The compromised system cannot be used to conduct this election at all. County clerks must operate under the assumption of a breach of those systems with leaked BIOS passwords or systems leaked to the presumed compromised systems. It is an invitation to pure chaos to allow this system to remain in operation and to expect voters to have the confidence in the outcome. It's time for the gold standard to meet the crucible. Every BIOS compromised machine has been vulnerable to an insider attack for at least a month, and potentially outside actors as well, depending on the security. So this meeting is critically needed to confront the unfolding election-related scandal involving Jena. Her role in making the BIOS passwords available online and then covering it up is creating a mistrust in our election, and we must act now before it is too late, especially with our elections in less than a week. That the actions of her office violate the most basic security demands scrutiny at all levels, and she just destroyed the evidence. So now you can't even see what the original machines look like because they're changed. Meeting Rule 1 allows you to pursue special meetings with at least 5 committee members, and additionally, you, as chair, may change date and times as necessary. The LAC is our only quick option to assess our compromised system. A serious course correction is necessary to reestablish trust with Coloradans, and an immediate and public LAC meeting is essential to unravel this mess created by Griswold, while initiating an investigation and recertifying the machines. Here is the standard. Here's what we need. All Secretary of State access and authorizations to the website must be terminated. All Griswold access and authorizations to the voting systems must be ended. All compromised machines or those networked to them must be unplugged and secured. All charges against Tina Peters must be immediately withdrawn. Amen. And all Secretary employees involved in this breach and Griswold must resign. We call on the leadership of the Colorado General Assembly to support an emergency legislative hearing to begin the process of rebuilding public trust. So we'll keep our eye in Colorado and see what Griswold says in response. The election's right around the corner, and their machines are bad.